This is London. «
16h sur BBC Afrique. Bonjour. Bosnie, la Russie va aider l'ONU à mettre fin au siège de la...
تفاصيل wadahadalladaasi waxa ay noqonayaan isla markaasi koox ka socotay hay'adda
15 hours, Greenwich Mean Time.
BBC World Service. The news read by Murray Holgate. American fighter planes have shot down 4 combat aircraft.
Sommet des ministres africains des Finances à Libreville. À l'ordre du jour, le problème de la dette extérieure du continent, une dette de 260 milliards de dollars.
This is Bush House in London, headquarters of the BBC World Service. From this building, the BBC broadcasts radio programmes to the whole world.
The World Service used to be called the Empire Service. When it started in 1932, it broadcast only in English and provided news and information to people in the British colonies. This is a recording of the very first broadcast.
This is London calling. Before beginning our first programme, Mr. J. H. Whitley, the chairman, and Sir John Reith, the Director General of the BBC, are going to speak to you.
The announcers used formal English and used to speak very slowly and clearly. After 6 o'clock, they used to change into dinner jackets to read the news. In the 1930s, Hitler and Mussolini started broadcasting propaganda to the Middle East. So, in 1938, the World Service also started broadcasting to the Middle East in Arabic to counteract the influence of the fascist propaganda. Very soon, the BBC was broadcasting to all the countries occupied by the Nazis. During the Second World War, the BBC reported British defeats as well as British victories, and so it got a reputation for honesty and accuracy. After the war, the BBC continued its foreign language broadcasts, and to this day broadcasts the news in 39 languages.
wasiirada lacagta ee Afrika ayaa lagu wadaa in ay ku kulmaan caasimadda Gabon Libreville maanta si ay uga wada hadlaan.
This is a live news broadcast to Somalia. Over 40% of the population listen to these broadcasts every day because they cannot get accurate news and information in their own country.
warqad kale oo tacsiyaha waxay naga soo gaartay cag.
Here in the newsroom, 120 journalists work day and night, writing 200 news bulletins every 24 hours. Every news story is checked at least twice before it is broadcast. The BBC will not broadcast a story until it is sure that it is true. When President Gorbachev was under house arrest in the Soviet Union in 1991, he said that he learnt the truth about what was happening in his country by listening to the BBC World Service.
We found some old radios in the service quarters and were able to set up aerials. The lads were able to figure out how to do that. And we began to see what we could get, and we got the BBC best of all.
This means the World Service is not always popular with governments. For example, the former Soviet Union jammed the broadcast for many years so that it was difficult for Russian people to listen to the BBC News. Even the British government was very angry when the World Service broadcast a speech criticising the government during the Suez Crisis in 1956. The BBC is the world's largest international broadcaster. Every week, 130 million people listen to BBC World Service radio. In 1992, the World Service started broadcasting television programmes too, via satellite to Europe, Asia and Africa. Now, people in countries all around the world can see, as well as hear, the news from the BBC.
Where's my bag?
When did you last see it?
It's got everything in it. My passport, my money, my ID card, my credit cards.
You had it on the beach.
It must be on the bench. Oh, no, it's not here. What am I going to do?
We'll have to report it to the police.
Hello, can I help you?
Yes, I've lost my bag.
Right. Can you give me your name?
Paola Calvetti.
Paola. C-A-L...
V-E-T-T-I.
You're Italian, are you?
Yes, I'm from Rome.
And can you give me the details? Where did you lose it?
I left it on a bench.
Near the beach at Harlem Bay.
And you've been back to the bench?
Yes, we went straight back, but it wasn't there.
Oh, I see. When was this?
This morning, just now.
And what kind of bag is it? Can you describe it?
It's black, made of leather. It has a gold...
A buckle.
Yes, a gold buckle.
And a shoulder strap.
And what was in the bag?
Oh, my money, my traveler's checks, my credit card.
And were your money and credit card in a wallet or a purse? Or?
Yes, in a brown leather wallet.
The wallet has her initials PC in silver letters on it.
Same as me.
Sorry?
A PC stands for a police constable. I'm PC Wilson.
Oh.
How much money was in the wallet?
About 30 or 40 pounds and 200 pounds in traveler's checks.
And what credit card did you have?
Visa.
Well, you should contact Visa and put a stop on the credit card. Contact the bank that issued the traveler's checks to and let them know what's happened. Right, what else was in the bag?
My passport. I have to go back to Italy in a few days. What happens if I can't find it?
Yeah, don't worry. You must telephone the Italian consulate in London immediately, and they'll give you a temporary passport.
I don't have their number.
We can get it from directory inquiries.
Can you give me an address in England where we can contact you?
The old Custom House Hotel. I'm there until Tuesday, and then I go back to Italy.
Are you on holiday here?
No, I'm a photographer. I'm taking photographs of Cornwall.
Really? Well, this time of year?
It's beautiful in the winter. It's wild and romantic.
I prefer it in the summer myself. Well, if your bag turns up before Tuesday, we'll give you a ring at your hotel. Now, this is your lost property number, and here's the phone number of this police station. If you don't hear from us, give us a ring before you leave the country.
Is it likely to turn up?
I don't know. It depends who found it.
Okay. Thank you.
Goodbye. Hope you enjoy the rest of your stay.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Yes, sir. Can I help you?
Yeah, I found this bag on a bench at Harlem Bay.
This is Britain's most popular and successful car, the Mini. Over 5 million have been made. This is one of the latest models. And this is one of the very first Minis. It was made in 1959. As you can see, the design has hardly changed. Very few cars have lasted as long as the Mini. So, why is it so popular?
I think because they're so well designed and so economical. They last a long time. I can't think of any other cars that you see so many of them when they're so old. And they're very easy to drive around town and easy to park and just good cars to drive, really.
The Mini is so special for me because I can maintain and service and repair them with small hand tools within my own workshop. They're a car that anybody can drive. Most people have driven one at some time, and all of the controls are simple. And so therefore you don't have to relearn the car each time you get in it to drive.
In the late 1950s, BMC, the British Motor Corporation, wanted to build a car that was different from other cars. They wanted it to be small, cheap and economical, like the bubble car. But the bubble car could only take 2 passengers. BMC wanted a family car big enough to carry 4 passengers.
Nowadays, that doesn't sound like a difficult problem, but in 1957 it was. At that time, a typical small family car looked like this. It was quite long, about 3.5 meters. It had large wheels and a large space for the engine. So there wasn't much room for the passengers. And it was expensive to make, and it cost a lot to run.
The Mini was designed by Alec Isigonis. This wasn't his first car. In 1948, he designed the Morris Minor, which was also very successful. He was a fast worker. He drew designs for the Mini on small pieces of paper, even on the back of envelopes. From the first idea to the first complete car took just 2 years, an incredible achievement.
Isigonis's problem was this: how to design a car which was smaller than most family cars, but which had more space inside.
First of all, he decided that the Mini should be 3 meters long, 1/2 meter shorter than most small cars. Next, the wheels were made much smaller, with independent suspension, and they were put right at the 4 corners of the car. Then the engine was turned sideways, and the gearbox was put underneath. More space was saved by having front-wheel drive, and there was still room for 4 passengers. In 1959, this design was revolutionary. Today, nearly every small car is based on the design of the Mini. Like the Volkswagen Beetle in Germany, the Mini was designed as a people's car. It was cheap and economical, and in the early 1960s, many ordinary families in Britain bought one. Everybody was very surprised then when the Mini became a very fashionable car. Many famous people drove them: film stars, pop stars, politicians, royalty. Even Enzo Ferrari, the famous Italian sports car designer, owned one. How many Minis have you got?
I've got 2 Minis, but only one of them goes.
I think at the last count, 14.
Do you repair them yourself?
Well, I have tried, but no, I get somebody to do it for me usually.
What's the fastest you've ever driven a Mini?
The fastest I've been in this particular one is about 125 miles an hour.
What's the largest number of people you've ever got into a Mini?
Oh, not very many, only about 5 or 6.
There were 4 of us actually in the front seat, and I think there were 5 in the back seat, and 1 was sitting in the boot with the boot lid laying down.
By the mid-1960s, the Mini was both a popular family car and a fashion accessory for the rich. But something even more surprising was happening. The Mini was becoming a very successful high-performance car. The unique design, especially the position of the wheels with their independent suspension, and the car's low centre of gravity meant that Minis were very fast, especially when going around corners.
Minis took part in all the major European rallies from 1960. There were a lot of bigger, faster cars in these races, such as the Porsche 911 and the Citroën DS, but on narrow, winding roads, nothing could beat the Mini.
These 3 Minis won the Monte Carlo Rally in 1964, 1965 and 1967.
Is there anything you don't like about the Mini?
I can honestly say no.
They're not very good when it's damp. If it rains, they're a bit tricky to start.
Is there any other car that you'd prefer to have?
Only something like a Porsche, but realistically, not really.
And would you swap your Mini for another car?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
The Mini is not the most elegant car. It's not the fastest car or the most comfortable either. But it's got plenty of character. It's fun to drive, and although it's over 30 years old, it still looks good. And of course, it's easy to park.
They're here, Geoffrey. You go and put the kettle on. I'll answer the door.
Yes, dear.
Now tell me again about your parents. What does your father do?
I've told you before. He's a bank manager and my mum teaches art.
Hello.
Hello, Mum. This is Paula.
It's lovely to meet you. We've heard so much about you.
I'm very pleased to meet you, Mrs. Evans.
Please call me Janet. Come in, come in. David, take Paola's coat, dear.
Yes, Mum.
Come into the sitting room.
Dad, can I introduce you to Paula?
Hello, Paula. Pleased to meet you.
Hello, Mr. Evans. Oh, these are for you.
It's very kind of you. I love these. We can have some after lunch. Did you put the kettle on, Geoffrey?
Yes, I did, dear.
Paula, would you like some tea or would you prefer coffee?
Tea would be lovely.
Tea for you, David?
Yes, please, Mum. I'll come and help you.
Please, take a seat, Paula.
Thanks.
How are you enjoying your stay in England?
Oh, it's great. Cornwall is very beautiful.
Yes, it's lovely, isn't it? But it's a bit wet at this time of year. David tells me you're a photographer.
Yes, that's right. I'm here taking photographs for a magazine.
Oh, you should take photographs of one of David's articles. You'd make a good team.
She's lovely, David.
Shh, she'll hear you.
Must be very difficult for you, living in different countries.
We're not exactly going out together, Mum.
Well, you can't, can you? Not with her living in Rome and you in Bath.
I mean, she's not my girlfriend.
These things take time. Your father and I were engaged for 6 years before we got married. Don't forget the milk, dear.
And you live in Rome, don't you, Paula?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, Janet and I went there on our honeymoon. That was a long time ago.
30 years ago in May. We might go there again for our anniversary, mightn't we, Geoffrey?
If you do, you must come and see me. I can show you around.
That would be lovely.
Your English is very good, Paula.
Thank you. I go to evening classes in Rome. And, of course, I practice on David.
Doesn't David speak to you in Italian, then?
Not very much.
Oh, David. And you studied it for years at school?
For 2 years? Well, I would speak Italian, but Paola's English is so good. I spoke Italian when I was in Italy at Easter.
He did. He tried very hard. He had to. Most of my friends don't speak much English.
How long are you here for, Paula?
I have to go back to Italy the day after tomorrow.
Oh, what a shame.
the heart of the English countryside, you feel that life hasn't changed for centuries. Here it is quiet and peaceful. People can escape from the cities and their crowds, pollution and noise. This is King's Sutton, a village in Northamptonshire, about 40 miles from the huge industrial city of Birmingham. Many of the houses in the centre of the village are 300 or 400 years old. This square certainly hasn't changed much. For centuries, this was the whole village. At the end of the square stands the church of St. Peter and St. Paul. It was built between 1220 and 1450 and is the oldest building in the village. But life here has changed a lot, and most of the changes have happened during this century. King's Sutton used to be a farming community. At the beginning of this century, about 1,000 people lived in the village, and most of them worked on farms in the area. But nowadays, machinery does the work of horses and men, and only 7% of the population work in agriculture. In the past, the villagers rarely travelled outside the village. They could buy almost everything they needed at the local shops. Morning. This was the village bakery. The baker used to make bread for the whole village, but I don't think any bread has been made here recently.
Grown up.
Elsie Merry was born in the village and has lived here all her life. Her father was the village baker.
Elsie, when did your father open the bakery?
He came to the bakery in 1915. It's always been a bakery from 1802, but he came in 1915
Yes.
during the First World War.
Was it hard work baking bread?
Very hard work, yes, yes. Up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock on Saturday morning, always.
So when did the bakery close?
2 years ago, 2 years last Easter.
Many of the other shops have closed too. That's strange because there are now 2,000 people living here. The population has doubled since 1945. And the village is much bigger. New housing estates have been built for the newcomers. But not many of the people who live in these houses work in the village. You see, King's Sutton isn't a self-sufficient community anymore. The villagers work in nearby towns, and they do most of their shopping there too, in large supermarkets. How do they get there? Not by bicycle, but by car and train. Why do you like living in King's Sutton?
It's friendly, it has good facilities, good communication. It's just a good community.
I like the people mostly, and quite a bit goes on, so it's quite interesting. And it's reasonably peaceful.
I like the village life. I've always lived here. I like the community life. The only thing I don't like is that everybody knows your business.
Well, I like it living here better than living anywhere else, really.
If you lived in a town, do you think life would be better?
Well, I don't think life would be better because there'd be a lot more noise and danger and stuff like that.
Well, you could go to the cinema, you could go swimming, and there'd be better sports facilities.
I think there'd be more to do, and probably more people.
We came here because we didn't want to be in a town, we wanted to be in a village.
A new motorway between London and Birmingham was completed in 1992, and it passes close to the village. How does this affect village life?
Well, there's a lot of complaint about the noise and pollution from the motorway, but it does improve communications to those who use cars for travel. And a lot of them work in London, so they can commute quite easily down there now, providing there are no traffic jams.
So is life in King Sutton better than it was in the past, or worse?
Well, it's better in the sense that we have gas, water, electricity and main drainage, so life for most people is more comfortable. The village has doubled in size, but the trouble is that most of the new residents don't work in the village, so they're commuters. So we've lost a lot of the community spirit which used to exist.
It's still quite strong, though.
It's still quite strong, especially amongst the older people.
Life in King Sutton has changed a lot during this century. If more and more people move out of the cities, the village will continue to change. But let's hope that here at the heart of King Sutton, there will always be peace and quiet.
Thank you for lunch.
You're welcome, dear. And thank you for the chocolate.
I hope we see you again soon, Paula.
Yes, I hope so.
And remember, you're welcome any time.
Thank you. If you come to Rome, you must let me know. David has my address.
Thank you, dear.
So, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ooh, Italian style.
Bye, David. See you next month in Bath.
Yeah, bye, Dad. Bye, Mum. Thanks for a lovely weekend.
Bye, dear.
Safe journey.
Drive carefully, David. Take care of yourselves.
Your mum and dad are really nice, David.
Yeah, they liked you too. It's a pity I've got to go back to Bath tonight. I wish I could stay here a bit longer with you.
I'm only here for another day myself.
Well, even one day would be nice.
I want to take some more photographs at the harbour, if it stops raining.
Okay. I've really missed you, Paola. Are you sure we can't?
David, we talked about this in Rome at Easter, didn't we?
Yeah, I know, Paola.
I'm sorry, David. I just think it's best if we stay friends. I live in Italy, you're here. It would be impossible.
Well, how do you know? We haven't tried it yet.
It just wouldn't work. When would we see each other?
Well, on holidays at first. And then maybe you could come and live here.
I can't make that sort of commitment. I just can't make promises like that.
There's nothing I can say to make you change your mind.
We've been friends a long time, David. Let's not change it now, please.
Okay. But make sure you keep writing.
I will, I promise.
I'd love a coffee. Can we get a cappuccino anywhere around here?
I doubt it.
David? David.